So, as you already know, the topic for today's webinar is preparation of construction, cash flow charts, and project progress S-curve. First, let me give you a little bit introduction to our company. So, Enziza Global, it's an online training platform under Enziza Training Academy, an Autodesk accredited training center with the goal of upskilling and forging the next generation of technical studies experts in all the architecture, engineering, and construction sectors. We recruit our top industry experts to deliver our courses through custom tailored instruction and group talks and much more. And so we usually have a great arena of our working systems. We deal with the architecture, civil and infrastructure, mechanical and utilities, engineering management, and so much more. We're very happy to connect you all to our company and to our good goal of helping everyone to upskill themselves and have a great march in their careers. So now, let me let you know a little bit about our training approach. As a user on our e-training platform, you'll be beginning with your training approach with an onboarding phase. You'll be provided with the guidelines on how to interact effectively with the model and ensuring that you can make most out of it. And then we'll be starting the training and you'll be going through the entire course. And once you have completed the onboarding and the training process, you will be trained with the well-equipped technologies with a vast knowledge base. And going through all of this, you will be given a really good technical support. They will be there to help you with any issues that you face up with. Your complete learning journey will be made as easy as possible from our behalf. And after you'll be completed your training and your information seeking sessions, the training will be closed and you will have to request the project to be studied and you will be verified for the same for your verification. So thank you. From here, I'd like our instructor, sir, to please take off. And the stage is all yours. Thank you so much.
So, yep, I was speaking for the past 15 minutes, so sorry for that. So you guys have seen my introduction, so I won't be wasting time on that. I have like worked as a planning engineer in multiple companies. Most of those companies were construction related, but some of them were also of different owner. So my introduction was simply placed in the slides and it was very well explained by the organizer. So I'm gonna skip that. I just had a small question which I was asking again and again, but my microphone was off. Obviously, I don't know why. So the question was that as all of you guys who are attending this session, almost 12 of you must have like a brief knowledge of how the construction industry works, and you must be professionals or students who must be studying in their respective courses. So I just have a question that what type of problems that you guys face when it comes to construction project management. The reason that why I'm asking this question is because I want to make this session as much interactive as possible. So if you guys have any input of the problems that you guys face in construction project management, and I mean, obviously we will talk about it, and during the webinar we will discuss those problems and we'll try to resolve those. So I think that obviously there must be uh, I think I will start with the first with the presentation. So Mr. Abdurrahman, who is also a member of my core member of my team, our project management team, he is going to open the presentation regarding the S curves and the cash flows, and then I'm going to start with the basics of how a construction project works, and then I'm going to show you guys and teach you how we can make an S curve and the cash flows, and then how we can control and monitor it. So there are like 3 to 4 stages that we're gonna discuss in this particular webinar. But first, we are gonna start with a presentation, which is a very brief one, just to give you guys a brief theoretical overview of what S-curve is. So, Mr. Abdurrahman, can you share your screen?
Yes, sure. Am I audible? Am I audible to all of you?
Yes.
Yes, yes, you're
Okay,
totally audible.
okay. So hello everyone. This is Abdurrahman. I am a fresh graduate of civil engineering from NUST, and I am currently pursuing a master's degree in construction engineering and management from the same university, NUST, Islamabad. And I would be here to give a brief overview about what an S-curve basically is. So let me share my screen.
Yep. Abdurrahman, we are able to see your screen now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's working, it's working. We're able.
Okay, so let's begin with the presentation. First off, this is a topic of my part presentation of for construction, cash flow charts, and project progress S curves using MS Project. That how we can create S curves using MS Project. So what basically S curve is, the project management is a complex process that requires careful planning, execution, and monitoring. One of the basic tools to monitor the project for the project manager is to track progress and performance using the S curves. An S curve is a pictorial tool that allows and uh, pro- uh, project managers and contract managers to identify trends and make data-driven decisions to ensure project stays on track. That we don't spend more on smaller tasks that are not needed, but rather to remain focused on the basic core objectives of any project. Definition of an S-curve is that an S-curve in project management can be defined as a statistical graph or representation that accurately depicts the cumulative data needed for a project or activity. Cost or person hours can be plotted against time, cost being on y-axis and timeline being on x-axis using this pictorial representation of data. Example is on the screen that here, let me hide this. We can plot timeline on the x-axis and cost hours or quantity of any material on y-axis, and we can see that we always obtain an S-curve trend on the graph. Moving forwards, I would explain practical example in the on the MS project. So there it would be more feasible to understand. Further explanation can be that an X-curve is a visual representation of typical cash productivity versus timeline of any project. This shows that initially a lesser cost is to be spent on a longer time span, while at the middle of any project, usually we spend more in within few days, as there are more tasks to be executed and more machinery to be procured at the end of any project. Usually we spend less on the finishing part of the project. For example, wall finishes or floor finishes, ceiling finishes, they cost less, but they take more of our project time. So the curve usually bends toward the normal of the x-axis. We would see in an example later on. So how do we obtain an S-curve using MS Project? First off, we have to complete the WPS work breakdown structure with with linking activities. How do we do it? We would get it about it. We would get to know about it and later on in the presentation presented by Mr. Jamal. So once we are done with the linking activities, then we would assign resources to respective activities and summaries, uh, like resources like material, uh, like work or cost. Next off, just go to the report as shown in the right bottom screenshot. Click the report tab on the top in the top tab. Next, click the cost, and here we would get cash flow option uh, in the drop down menu. So once we click it, we would obtain an S curve of the particular MS project. So let me show a real-time example. Can you see the MS project? Is MS project visible?
Yes, it is. Yes.
So this is an example of an ongoing project. Uh, Here are the different terms, spring, autumn, etc., and the days which it would take. These are the summary of each phases. Campus-wide strategy development, it would take 370. Zone 1, Westwood design would take 356. Demolishing of cottages would take 60 days. ITS would take 60 days. Like we can click here summary, then we would assign summaries. The whole detail would be explained by Mr. Jamal. I would just explain how do we get a Scurve on this particular project. So once we have got these activities listed in the MS project, we would assign assign resources. We can see that there would be resources assigned to each activity, and then finally once these activities are linked, a WBS is obtained. Then we can generate a report just by clicking report, decide resource, click cost, and then obtain a cash flow. Once we click cash flow, MS project would generate a report, and here we can see that a graph is obtained of time versus cash flow. So here we can see that during May to September, in this timeline, uh, lesser costs uh, were utilized in the project scope, but later as we move on, the cumulative costs increase. Of course, the expenditure varies time to time, but a cumulative of the whole project cost would have uh, a curvilinear trend among with respect to the timeline. So here we can see a formation of S curve towards the concave shape, and then when we are about to end a project, we usually see a bend down in the graph, which shows that lesser cost is to be procured or used on a longer time run, and that's how we get an S curve of, of a cost to time graph of any project.
Okay. Thank you,
Further,
Abdurrahman. I think that I will take over from here. Just keep this screen open. I just want to show these guys the attendees. Just want to let them know that it's an S, because we call it S curve because it's an S. But I mean, Mr. Abdurrahman has clearly told you guys why we achieve this particular shape during the whole construction process. So let me show you guys why we are like steep in the center, and then we go bent at the end, and we have a small bend at the start. So there is a big reason for that. So there are like three phases in which the project will go. So all of these phases, we have a term for that. The first phase we call it as initiation, or we can say the initial phase. It's a slow start. It's a beginning. Progress is slow as planning, approvals, or the initial groundwork are undertaken. Now, what do I mean by groundwork? Groundworks are mostly like excavation works. We have to get permits. So it's a slow process in the start. So which is why the S curve, or the downward part of the S, is a bend in the start. During this phase, the curve starts at a shallow slope. So we know about that. And then the second phase, which Mr. Abdurrahman was telling you guys about, it's the rapid growth phase. Is the phase in which the crux of the construction process will occur. As the project advances, activities are executed more efficiently and the progress accelerates. So this is the phase which is the most important for the planning engineer or for the construction manager, because this is where the whole construction activities will occur. This phase is actually characterized by a steeper slope on the curve as construction work intensifies and milestones are achieved. And then the final phase, which Mr. Abdurrahman was telling you about, which is also a bend. It's a slow finish. which we call it the final phase because it's the turnkey. If it's a turnkey project, we will like hand over the project to the client. So it's the end of the project. Towards the end of the project, progress begins to slow down. Obviously, we have to like finish all the activities we started. So the project will die down, or the activities will die down. And WBS, which is a work breakdown structure, will tend to close down. So the remaining tasks are completed and the final touches are added. The curve levels off as the project reaches completion. So this is how we actually see the S curve. I haven't. We are going to tell you. We are going to show you how an S curve is made. But before doing that, we are trying to show you what S curve is, how it's formed, what its shapes means. Because before, like it's a reverse analogy we are gonna use. No, there are like several insights which an S curve possesses for the project managers or the stakeholders. I'm pretty sure that most of you guys must be working in the field as civil engineers, structural. Process.
Yes, yes.
So the S curve. Okay. So the S curve, what it does is that it allows us to track the progress. It helps monitor whether the project is on track, behind schedule, or ahead of schedule. Now, what do these three terms mean? Either the project can be on track. If it's on track, it means that the project manager is happy, it's on track. Either it can be behind schedule. Behind schedule means that you are lagging, you are behind the schedule, you are paying too much, but you're not getting any gain. So it's not a good thing to have. Or either you can be ahead of schedule. Ahead of schedule is what most of the project manager likes. They think that most of the projects should be ahead of schedule. The reason they do so is because it saves time. And when you save time in the construction industry, you are saving a lot of money. So time and finances are like they go side by side. They're directly proportional. Now the second thing that S curve helps us in is the resource allocation. Now the S curve, when you see the S, if it's not coming as an S, you can see that we have to allocate more resources in that particular part in which there are more activities in. What we do is that we assign more labor, we assign more we assign more like carpenters, we assign more concrete layers, or we assign more manpower to the particular activity which is lagging us. So when we assign more resources, what it does is that it actually makes the project ahead of schedule. So S curve, guys, can you guys hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
So somebody muted me. I don't know why, but somebody has access, but I don't know. Well, so what I was telling you guys was that S curve, as you can see in the screen, it helps us in tracking the project. Tracking means if you're ahead of schedule, behind schedule, or if you're lagging in schedule. So what it does is it helps us track the project. It helps us to allocate the resources if we are behind. For example, if you're behind, we have to allocate more manpower and more finances. These are the two things which are in our project manager's control. And the third thing that it does is, which is very interesting, it helps us to analyze the performance of the project. If you're deviating from the planned S curve, the planned S curve, which is the baseline S curve, we will be able to indicate the inefficiencies, bottlenecks, or the delays in the project's execution, which helps in the decision making and the communication process. So these are the 3 points that you must remember before we go forward and design these S curves or cash flows. These are the 3 points that you must remember, so that in retrospect you will be aware why we make S curves. Rather than just making them, we must be aware of why we make them, which is why I was explaining it. Now, Mr. Abdurrahman, you can continue uh, with the details that you were telling us about.
So basically, I was explaining this S curves as the three phases stage, as you have already explained. But furthermore, we can see that we have actual cost, baseline cost, remaining cost, and cost variance. Cost variance is the difference between baseline cost and actual cost. What baseline cost is that what a project manager have already allocated budget for the project before execution of the project. And actual cost is the cost that we incurred during the execution of the project or after the project. So usually what happens is that the baseline costs are lower than the actual cost, because as we know, inflation come into place Secondly, the scope changes by the client or the consultant side, that they sometimes want more items to be used in the project execution with respect to time. So with their demand being increased, cost budget of the project also tend to increase. So usually we get a negative variance, but sometimes we do get positive variance if certain items are deducted from the scope of project. So this was all by my side. I can now handle the presentation control to Jamal. Mr. Jamal, you can present from now on.
So, can you guys can see the screen?
Yes, yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Okay. So we will start with the very basics, such as I will create 4 to 5 dummy activities and will link those activities with each other. For example, I will consider activities, for example, A, then next activity will be activity B, C, D, E. Also, I will assign durations to this. For example, this will take 5, 12, and 10 days. Now, I will link those activities in with each other by using this link button here. Now, by doing this, it will automatically create a finish to start relationship with all those activities. So we have our schedule created, as you can see. Now, for resource loading the schedule, firstly I need to create the resources in this sheet. So for this, you can see in the taskbar there is a Gantt chart button, and from the drop down you will select resource sheet. Now this sheet allows us to create the resources and to give them cost and all the stuff that is required. So for example, firstly we will create a man resource. For example, in this activity I need a steel fixer, so I will write steel fixer, and this is the number of, this basically shows the number of person that are in the team. We can also make it a group resource or a single resource. So 100% means this is a one person. So by increasing this 200, this means there are 2% working 8 hours a day for a particular activity. So, and here you can define the standard rate, basically the wage rate of this resource. For example, I will assign it $15 per hour. Similarly, I will create a form work resource and will assign a rate of $20. Let's suppose I will create a concrete labor and also will give him a rate of let's suppose $22 per hour. Also here you can set the distribution of resource on a particular activity. If you select it start of the activity, it will consume all the resources at the start of the activity. But for this case I will use this prorated. So what it will do, it will distribute the resource uniformly within the activity. So here I have my resources ready. Now I will go back to my Gantt chart view and will assign those resources. For example, this activity would require steel fixer, and I am just assigning these on a random basis. So this activity will require formwork and concrete, and this will only require concrete. Right, and also if you go to the home tab, and here you can see the details tab. So here you can see it has this sorry.
Oh, okay. I was asking that if there's anything you'd like to put up, please put it in the chat box because else it disrupts the
The
flow.
presenter as found is muted.
He's on muted. Ask him to unmute.
So I was telling you people that I created the activities and assigned the resources to them, and the cost which I assigned to these resources is distributed to that activity. For example, if you go to this activity, activity A, the steel fixer was assigned, and you can see this. It basically calculate the total work hour basically, and multiplied the work hour with the unit wage of that resource, and in this way it computed the total cost of this activity. So in this way you can create the resource and assign it to the activity, and it will in this way you cost load and resource load simultaneously to your schedule. And also the important thing is the Microsoft project, we can create three type of resources in here. First one is the work resource, basically the man resource, and also you can create the material resource. For example, there can be a concrete or aggregate or cement, etc. And also you can assign a lump sum cost by using this option, but it isn't preferable because by using this, we can perform the EVA analysis efficiently on this on a particular schedule. So it isn't recommended. It is recommended to use the work resource or the material resource. So to basically move toward the tracking part, there are two major things that you need to do. For this, firstly, you need to assign a baseline or create a baseline for this schedule. So for this, I will go to the project tab. Here you can see the set baseline, and I have my whole entire project selected, and I will click OK, and a baseline is created of this project, and you can verify this by adding this parameter, which is baseline start, baseline. So by this we can know that a baseline has been assigned to our resource. And now the second important thing is to assign a status date to the schedule. Basically, status date is a data date which is used as a cutoff point to which we want to monitor our progress. So for example, I want to monitor till 20th August, and I click OK. So I have assigned a status date to my schedule. Now I'm good to go to move toward the tracking part. So for tracking, basically you assign the actual, we have the assigned baseline finish, but we need to provide him with the actual start. This means that on which day that activity started on the site. So for this, there are multiple ways by which you can achieve this. But for me, the most easy way is to go on the home tab, and here you can see mark on track. So on a drop down, you can see update task here. So here it gives you the option of inputting the actual start and finish. So for example, it actually starts on let's say 9th of August, one day earlier. Sorry. Okay, 9th of August, and it is 100% and it basically completed on let's say 15th of August. I will click OK, and it will show me a percentage complete of 100. Right? So this activity is 100% completed. And let's say this activity has an actual start of let's say 16th, and I say this activity is completed by 60%. Let's say. So by doing this, you can see we assign, once we created the baseline, it assigned the baseline cost of it because of it, and also by as we set percentage complete of 100%. So it automatically make the baseline cost actual to baseline cost equals to actual cost. But let's say that what we suppose that this activity will take the cost, it exceeds. So if you try to manually edit this, it will not allow you to do so. So for this, there is an option in the files tab, an option. Here you can see the actual costs are always calculated by project. So basically it will use the percentage complete that you provided, and because of by using that value, it will compute the actual cost. So if I want to add manually, so I will basically uncheck this option here. Okay. And now let's say this cost exceeded our baseline. It takes $700 because we started it one day earlier, let's say. And also uh, 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 this thing, let's say, take $600, and this one take $500. And I'll click OK, and it assign the provided details in the schedule. So for tracking, there are if you want to use the EVA analysis, there are three basically columns, which is actual cost of work performed and budgeted cost of work performed, budgeted cost of work schedule. So also I want to see a summary task, or basically a WBS. For this I will go into the view tab, basically for project, no, view tab, and where is there option of creating summary. Here, project summary task. So I can see a project summary out of it. So as I assign resources to this, I can view the S-curve that get generated because of it. For this, you simply need to go to the report task. Here you can see the cost option, and here cash flow option. So basically the unit is bigger, and I change it to days. I click OK, and in this way S-curve of that project based on the information I provided gets generated, as you can see. And also there are multiple options. You can assign the budgeted cost and the budgeted cost of work schedule, as you can see here. So by this way, you created create the resource, you resource load the schedule, you cost load the schedule, and you get a basically the S curve of that project. And also you can see a project summary here, the actual cost that is being spent, the baseline cost, the remaining cost, and the variance. So
Mr. Aswin, can you like I have some things to explain to the attendees. So
yeah.
so obviously we are teaching you how to make a cash flow report and how to create an S curve, and for that these four: actual cost, baseline cost, remaining cost, and cost variance, I have to tell you what these four are. So as the name goes, actual cost is the cost that you will incur when the project starts. For example, if I started with the excavation, and excavation is taking like $500,000, so that is actual cost. But the planning engineer, once he plans out the project before the project starts, that is the baseline cost. So according to Mr. Aswan, he, as a planning engineer, thought that this project was going to take $10,000, but actually the cost for this particular activity which took was $1,800. So the project manager or the site engineer, he will be able to see the variance, which is the difference between these two. the remaining cost, which is the difference between these two. As you can see, the remaining cost is the difference subtraction between these two particular. Uh, I'm not able to see the screen. Okay, now I can. So this is how. Not all the time you will see a perfect S curve. Obviously, that particular shape is achieved if the project has completed, because this is we have just started this project and showed you how we can create an S curve, which is why we are not seeing a perfect shape. But Mr. Asfan will show you the project in which we had completed recently that had the perfect S curve shape. But obviously, we need to first show you guys what these terms are: actual cost, baseline cost, remaining cost, and cost variance. And we also have like four to five further options, which I will explain further when we show you the other graph. So someone from the attendees had a small question regarding what type of benefit does the project manager have when we have a perfect S curve. So the question was, in the context of civil engineering, how does the S curve helps project managers identify potential delays or deviations from the project schedule and take corrective action? Now that's a very that's a very good question, because in the context of things, obviously the project manager will be the first one who will be seeing this S curve and taking action. Now how he will take action? If he thinks that the project is ahead of schedule, he will start to thin down the resources. He will try to extract his manpower from that particular activity and send it somewhere else to another project. Because if he thinks that if the project is ahead of schedule, he's saving already a lot of money and he's saving time. So he will allocate those resources somewhere else. But if the S curve shows the project is behind schedule, what he will do is he will allocate more resources. So the project manager, seeing the shape of the S curve, he will be able to judge if the project is ahead of schedule or if it's behind schedule. So that helps him a lot in the long run. So I hope that I have answered someone's query which was raised before. And now, Mr. Aswan, you can continue with this particular graph and show the project that we built.
So this was the project that we were working recently. So it was basically an annual development project, or basically a revamp project based in the USA. So basically we created the resources which I will show you. So basically these are the resources, all the work manpower basically, which we created and assigned it to their respective activities. And also there was a BOQ associated with the schedule. So for this, and we were asked to cost load the schedule. So simply I created a resource and changed type the cost, which I told you earlier. So I created the cost resource, and by seeing here, and I associated the cost resource values with their respective WBS. So this is a very simplified and I think the easiest way of generating the S curve, which I will show you. So for S curve, you go to the report tab, recent and cash flows. So this was uh, the S curve for this project, basically a real project. So we have little activities at the start, and then there was a big jump in the activities, and with the passage of time, the activities basically uh, decreases in quantum. So also I would like to show you basically I give you the overview of CPI and SPI. For this, again, allow me to create a simplified schedule. Link those activities, and again I will create a resource, and let's say this time I create a material resource, and for the material resource I have to assign a unit basically rate. For example, in the case of cement, here you can enter the per unit rate of the bag, or if this is a steel, you can add the per ton weight of the steel. So in this way, you assign a unit rate of this. For example, this thing has a unit rate of 60, right? And I again go to here and I assign my unique created resources in here. And also you can change the
Miss Product Finance out.
anyone has a question? Okay. So for example, this activity required this resource, 3 unit resource of this thing. I click OK, and you see it costs adjusted as per the unit I input. And also for this, let's say it takes 7 units. I click OK, go to the next one. This thing required 6 unit, and also this thing, let's say, required 2 units. Let's say I click OK. And as I told you, and this is very important thing for tracking, you need to create the baseline and set a status date, because without this you can't track the project. So let's say in this case I assign a 20th of August as the status date. And let's say if they in a very ideal case that your activities are going as per the schedule, for this you can also directly monitor your schedule. For this you need to go to the project, and here you can see the update project. So as per your status date provided, it will assign the percentage complete which needed to be done as per the schedule to this. So if you select this option here, it will only assign 0%, which means not started, and 100% if completed. So, and if you want a realistic value somewhere in between the precise, like 22 or 37, so for this you will select this option here, and I click OK, and my and it updated the schedule because as per the provided information. So so as per our provided information, it has completed the first activity and the second activity. And also I can similarly create the summary task for it. For this I need to go to the format and click on project summary task, and you get a summary of the, and similarly you have your, and there are multiple tables which you can view in the MS project. For this this is the basic one, the entry one, and also it provides you with a bunch of table which you can use. So here you can see all the tables which are available. You can see the cost detail, and also you can see the unvalue table, and these are for the cost indicator, basically the CPI, and the SVI. So in this case, as I told you that it was an ideal case, and the cost and the timeline was following strictly to the baseline. So in this way, it gives us a CPI of 1 and SPI of 1, as you can see here. And also you can see for the individual activities. For this, you simply need to type CPI here, and it will provide you with the CPI of all the activities. So, okay. Um, And also there are a bunch of reports, and it's a very powerful feature of MS Project that you can create a customized report and as per your need. So here there is a cost option. You can select from the templates which the MS Project provided, and here you can create a dashboard for your project. And also this is a very useful feature of visual reports. For in this, you can get the data from the MS Project directly in your Excel sheet, and you can get the data against each activity. And for multi complex projects, this is a very handy feature. So um, and also let's update. Okay, now let's say create a one more project, and let's say we want to compute a CPI and SPI of this, which shouldn't be one. So let's create a one more project here. ABC activities with the duration of 2, 4, and 6. I link those activities, and I simply create a resource, 1, 2, 3 resource, which is set to work, and it has a standard rate of $10 per hour. You again assign this to your activities, and for monitoring you need to create a baseline out of it, and let me see that it has assigned the cost to it or not. So you can see the cost has been added. So you create the baseline, set baseline OK, and update it to, let's say my status date would be of 15, and OK. So you can see baseline cost has been added, which was initially 0. So now I want to add my actual on-site cost, which exceed our baseline assumption. So for this, firstly you need to set the options correct, and here you can uncheck this one. Actual costs are always calculated by project. So I uncheck this one, and I will add my custom cost in here. So let's say this was started one day before 9th of August, and it completed on 10th. Okay, and this activity also gets started and it started on, let's say, 12, and it has a percentage complete of, let's say, 45, and I select OK. And also as I uncheck the actual cost computed by project, I have to manually enter here. So in this way, let's say the cost exceeded our baseline and it was $200, and I click OK, and here let's say it takes around $2 to $5, right? And I create a summary of this project here, and I created a WBS for me. So now you will be able to let's move directly to the fund value table. So you right click here, you go to more tables, and you select the fund value table. So here you can see all the actual values. You can see the actual cost of work performed, the actually that I fed into the software. Then you can see the baseline cost and variable cost. Let's move cost CPI table, this one. So cost performance. So as you can see, I estimate the actual cost. So it gives me a CPI of 0.72, which isn't good enough, and it shows that my project is over budgeted of what I initially supposed. And also, as per the CPI, let's see the CPI schedule. Sorry. Uh, and also you can see the five, which is say reasonable value closer to 1. So basically 1 is our baseline. We want to remain as close to 1 as possible. So and these are very valuable basically indices, and it can also help us in forecasting our project cost at completion. For example, let's take the CPI. So basically, it says that I am behind my schedule by about 28%, right? So this is given me a hunch that basically my project is exceeding my baseline cost by about 28%. So we have to take some corrective measures to bring our project on track. So basically closer to 1. So in this way, uh, you can track your schedule. So guys, we learn how to how to basically create the resources, basic resources. There are 3 types of resources: the man-hour resource, or work resource, the cost resource, and the material resource. Then we assign our created resources to the activities, and also we change their units as per our needs. And then lastly, we track our schedule. We assign the baseline, we assign the status rate, and we basically track our schedule. And lastly, we get to see about the CPI and the SPI and the significance of these ratios. So if any participant has a question, you are available.
Mr. Aswan, so you have like depicted how brief, or you have given us like a complex overview of how a project works, a construction project works from start to finish. Obviously, we had to give a pretty small example. So now, Mr. Aswan, I request you to open up the project that we were like working on and show us the S curve, just to show the attendees that how it appears at the end and how we can control it, because these were the questions that I was receiving from the attendees. So if you could do that, that would mean a lot.
So basically, this was a project, and it was basically a government scheme of ADP, Annual Development Project, and it was basically a revamp projects of their infrastructure. So we have to cost load the schedule. So simply, and we have the BOQ and we have the schedules. So we require cost loading. So simply for each of the WPS item, I simply create one resource of this one CC and change its type to cost, right? And I change the occur of prorated. So I simply create this resource and I go back to my Gantt chart view, and I have the cost of the WPS, and I simply move toward the WPS and assign the resource, basically in my resource, to this thing here. And the beauty of this cost option is that you can basically assign your cost, whatever cost you have. So basically this was from the WBS, so I simply put my WBS cost against this CC, and also we can replicate it multiple times. For example, see this, we have again I assign my CC resource and change its cost to this value here. Similarly, again, this my resource assign it cost from the WBS. So by this manner, I basically we assign all the cost to the schedule, and then for the S curve, it get automatically created for us. So you can go to the report, cost report, and here you can see the S curve, and it's called the S curve because it follow a S-shaped line, as you can see here, or close to S, I would say. So
Meanwhile, Aswan will share the screen. If you guys have any questions, you can.
I have shared the screen. Can you see it?
Not
Yes, yes, it's
for you
visible.
guys. Mr. Aswan, I'm not able to see the screen, but can you scroll downwards to the chart?
Yes, this one.
The
Yeah,
one.
we are. Yeah, we can see the chart.
Okay. So now I will open it at my end too because I'm not able to see it. So yeah. So this is a project that I did when I was working with that project. So you can see that this is not clearly an S curve, but what it does is that I mean there are plenty of ways you can show your cash flows. There's not a single constraint. There are millions of ways you can present your project, your cash flows to the project manager, and there are like hundreds of ways to which you can analyze it. So you can see that this is the investor's work and expenditure schedule of the analyzed hotel facility. On the left side, there's a cumulative cost. On the right side, there's a baseline cost. So you can see that this is graph is basically gives us the comparison between the cumulative costs and the baseline costs, and how we can like see if it's going ahead of schedule or if it's going behind schedule. So the comparison that you have to do is between the baseline and between the cumulative. Once you do the comparison, you will be able to see if you are ahead of schedule or if you're behind schedule. So I mean, we are going to I mean, as Aswan has showed you how you can construct a small project in no time. What I would like to for you guys to do is that whoever is attending this session should like make a small schedule with with random values and random resources and see how a cash flow turns up, because at the end of the day the question is that you should be able to produce a S curve or produce a cash flow chart for the project manager for him to analyze. So as we are heading to the last 30 minutes, and I hope you guys will have questions, and I have fingers crossed if you have. So, so this is, I mean, the end product can look like this, but it can also look like something else. They can be manpower histograms, they can be budgeted cost and actual cost curves. So it depends on the requirements of the project manager, and it depends on what the planning engineer is trying to show. So it's all about what you guys want to present, because MS project has multiple options. It has pie charts, it has histograms, it has like when you go to the reports, it has all type of graphs which you can use. So again, whichever works for you, whichever works for the project manager, you can use that. And it doesn't depend, it's not like always that S curve will be an S shape. It will be something else too sometimes, so you don't have to worry about it. You can use other type of drawings to other type of reports for that too.
Seti. Bo, harja hari ya parui. Sivyo? Harja
So we are heading towards the conclusive part of this webinar. So if you guys have any questions, you can put forward your questions. We can discuss it as a group and see how we can find solutions to the modern construction problems.
Thank you, Session, and the facilitators of this webinar. Thank you for everyone who attended this webinar. I would love to mention perhaps 2 or 3 things. One is that as Nziza Global, we are committed to bring this knowledge to the public access so that people can actually see what the softwares are capable of doing. Because the objectives of this webinar we conduct is simply to show you what the software is able to do. Because there is what you're able to do. And by the time someone demonstrates what you've been learning and you go like, oh, I didn't know that I can also do this. Yeah. So that's the first point, to open your eyes to the wider tools that are available in the market and to help you see how these softwares are actually doing most of the work that may be hindering our next growth. That's the first thing. And I hope that you have learned 1 or 2 things that you didn't knew you can be able to achieve with MS Project. So the second thing is, usually when this happens, what we get as a feedback here at Nziza is people coming to us and saying, yes, I saw what the software is able to do, but then I'm not able to do it. Yeah. And this is where we come in. So we have dedicated our resources to bring to you what we might deem as the best available learning source that it's trustworthy, because we make sure that we adhere to the standards of the software we're teaching, and we get verified instructors to help us to teach this software from A to Z, where you can actually know just what the software is able to do, but where you become able to do that. And this is what we do here at Nziza Global. And this, the third thing is I will invite you on that. So if you have been with us on this webinar for this 1 or 2 hours, and then it seems like you need to go to that path, and then you dedicate your time to actually go in depth and understand and be able to deliver projects on time, on schedule, and manage everything with MS Project. I'll just share quickly my screen so that I can show you. From nzizaglobal.com, you can simply access the platform, nzizaglobal.com. Then here on courses, you can actually see that we have more courses in engineering management. And this is where you find MS Project and other courses. For this matter, we'll just focus on MS Project. So my final announcement will be just on MS Project. Normally this course, for the full package, and when I say full package, I mean what is inclusive in the course. So 4 things. Number 1, you'll get access to this course. So the access lasts for 3 months. Okay, so when you pay for the course, we give you access for 3 months. Number 2, we assign you a technical support person who will help you throughout the course, so that anytime you have any challenge working on anything, you will be in contact with that person and they will help you to get it resolved. Number 3, we'll assign you a project. So this is not an academic institution. So the only way we can validate that you actually learned and you understand this thing is if you are able to deliver a project using the software you've been learning. So we assign you a project, you deliver it using the MS Project. Yeah. And then the 4th, will give you the certificate for completing this course. So I just want to share with you some good news that this package, it goes for $500. Yeah. And then after this webinar, you'll be accessing this full package on $300. So what I want you to do is that if you want to continue this course, you will have to reach out to us. Yeah. Let me just put our information in the chat box. You have just to reach out to me here so that we can move ahead with the discussion. So that's the email that you can use. You can see it in our chat box. There's also the number. I'm sending it in a few. But yeah, that's my final announcement. So we've decided to give you a discount on that, and I'll be available on the email. Reach out to me, let's talk, and let's get you started. we want to see as many of you leveling up your game. This is why in the market, and as we have been doing so for the past few years, we hope to keep doing the same work. So if there is any question regarding how to get started with the CISA Global on this MS project, I'll be taking a few questions, and then I will also be collecting some cash, yeah, because that's why I'm here, okay? So if there is any question regarding that, you can put it in the chat box, or you can mute your microphone and yeah, share us the question, then I'll attend to it. Thank you.